Welcome back. The next chapter of the Department of Government Efficiency begins now. That's because tech billionaire Elon Musk is stepping down from his role leading DOGE. He spoke alongside President Trump at the White House Friday in what was his last official day as special government employee. His tenure was 130 days, the max limit for that role. And here to discuss this is our panel with Tim Dozier and Jason Sorens. Tim is the executive director at Unleash Prosperity, and Jason is a senior economist at the American Institute for Economic Research. Thank you both for joining our program. Tim, let's kick this off. Can DOGE be as effective in eliminating what Musk calls waste and abuse without Musk, who said he would work very hard for the cause?
Well, first of all, I want to pause because I just wanted to say what a great conversation this is that we're having. I mean, what is the Department of Government Efficiency last year? I mean, it didn't even exist. We weren't having these conversations. And so the fact that we are having the conversation, worrying about whether or not this great work is going to continue is, first of all, good. Second of all, is the work going to continue? 100% it's going to continue. The only thing that we're going to be missing is that massive bullhorn that Elon Musk had to constantly tout to the American people the waste, the fraud, and the abuse that we are discovering every single minute, every single hour in the federal government through DOGE's thing. So, yeah, we're going to have to make up for that bullhorn that we're going to miss. But the work's going to continue through Rust vote. So this is a good thing.
Understood, Tim. And as we know, President Trump created DOGE through the executive order after taking office shortly thereafter. So, Jason, what's next for DOGE? Open-ended question here. Maybe it needs a new leader. Perhaps legal challenges might shape its future, or could it simply just keep on advancing on its current path unaffected?
I agree that DOGE is going to continue. And in fact, some of the most impactful stuff that DOGE is going to do may be ahead of it. That's because what DOGE is focused on so far is mostly canceling contracts and reducing spending. And in doing so, they've worked with the appointed heads of different departments, like the Secretary of HHS. And they've had a lot of influence that way. But what they're turning their attention to now is federal regulations. And they've already canceled a number of federal regulations. They're working on an additional batch of them right now. We just heard a couple of days ago that DOGE has repealed a regulation, a Biden-era regulation that we at AIER urged them to repeal, which allowed pension fund managers to invest in ESG, which is bad, obviously, for their clients because ESG funds earn a lower return than purely market-driven funds. So this is just one example of a number of regulations that DOGE is now looking at. And this is an area where they can have a bigger impact because they don't need the approval of Congress to repeal these regulations. So there's a lot of attention on rescissions, and is Congress going to actually enact and legislate these spending cuts from DOGE? We don't have to worry about that with regulations.
Understood, Jason. Tim, seems like you're shaking your head. You could, of course, respond to your co-panelists. And also, Musk says his departure is only the beginning of DOGE, and that the department's only going to go stronger over time. How might the Trump administration continue restructuring government agencies with Musk no longer at the helm, and what agencies might be affected most?
Well, again, like I said, Elon Musk was incredible because he brought in the advanced AI, the technology, all of this stuff to sort of streamline the regulatory reduction and the shrinking of government, making it run more efficiently. But this has been a conversation that having in the movement, at least in the conservative movement, for decades. The playbook is already there. We know what we're doing. And now what the best part about this is that the culture is being created. Let's create a culture where now the American people are fully aware of the waste, fraud, and the abuse. I mean, if you look at the Government Accountability Office, it's trillions of dollars that they already know about that could be saved over 10 years. Trillions of dollars. Now, as we said, that has to come through Congress, but it's creating the culture that will then drive Congress and drive the American people to finally say, there it is right in front of us. We can see it now. We can see it. Make it happen, Congress. Make it happen. And I think we're going to see that with a big, beautiful bill, especially if we codify the REINS Act, which makes agencies sing to create regulations that cause the American people money. So it's little things like that that we see in D.C. that are a really good thing that DOGE has created.
Okay, thanks, Tim. And Jason, meanwhile, the NPR report suggests that DOGE has made the government less efficient Their rationale is cutting a tech unit at the General Services Administration that helped improve digital services, encouraging in-person work when desks and internet access was scarce, and freezing some government payment cards that made it harder to buy basic supplies. Is that an accurate assessment, or is there more at play?
There's a lot more at play, and there may be a few things that DOGE has to look at and that departments have to look at restoring. There is an office at the FDA that handles regulatory approvals that has been cut, and there may be a need for restoration there to kind of move drug approvals along. So there are some areas where federal staff are there to help private industry get permits, right? And so we need to make sure that they're able to do that and make sure that that is happening efficiently. But the net effect of DOGE has been to cut government spending. And when you look at all the pluses and the minuses in terms of what they're cutting and what they're going to have to restore, it's still about $19 billion, according to a recent report from Reuters, that they've cut. So this is what we need in the federal government, right? And when you go in and you start finding this waste, fraud, and abuse, and you start cutting inefficiencies, yeah, you might go a little far in some areas, but we need this. We haven't had this in decades in the federal government. So it wasn't going to be a pretty process. And yeah, people are complaining. Special interests are complaining about having their budgets cut. But this is the start to getting federal spending under control and reducing our debt.
Thanks for that, Jason. And Tim, there have been reforms in the past, as your co-panelist was saying, distant past maybe, but in recent years, it seems DOGE is doing something novel. And I'll give you just one example of contracts they have ended, like millions for making mice transgender. Is DOGE helping Americans understand more clearly how their tax dollars are being spent?
I'm laughing right now, but I shouldn't be laughing. I mean, it's absolutely offensive that the federal government based in Washington, D.C., with a very tiny landmass, with a ton of people living there, feeding off of the government, that's a part of the problem. That's the DOGE culture that we are seeing now. We are bringing Americans along with the idea that shrinking the government is actually a good thing because we're not going to miss it. We're not going to miss all these things that we've uncovered because of this great work that Elon Musk has done and that we're going to continue to do. And then whoever else comes next will continue to do. These are the things that are there, and there's a heck of a lot more out there.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Jason, what's the biggest challenge for DOGE going forward?
Yeah, I think the number one challenge is getting Congress to agree to these rescissions. We've heard from Stephen Miller recently that these rescissions will mostly not be in the one big beautiful bill, so they're going to have to be dealt with separately because they are mostly discretionary spending. So we're going to see that. I think we're going to see a battle where the administration is going to come out in favor of doing this. And I think they're going to get it through Congress, but we'll have to see. So that's the number one challenge. Number two challenge is simply going through the massive federal regulations. The Federal Register is immense, and there's a lot in there that is pretty subtle, and it's going to take a few months to continue to sort out what has to stay because it's required by statute and what we can get rid of to free up the dynamism in the American economy, free up entrepreneurs to create jobs and create wealth.
Got it, Jason. Tim, according to DOGE's website, the agency has saved an estimated $175 billion so far. Is the $1 trillion in savings over DOGE's lifetime, if it doesn't get extended, feasible, considering that a lot of the federal budget's mandatory spending?
Yeah, well, look, that's why I was talking about creating the culture that then Congress is going to have to step up and do this. We mentioned the rescissions package. I mean, this is, $9 billion. It's not that much, but it's every cent is a fight in Washington, D.C. Every little penny is fight for. So that's why we got to talk about continuing DOGE to continue to create the culture to say that, hey, we can remove $9 billion. No problem. You're not going to miss it. Nobody else is going to miss it. Really, nobody in Wichita, Kansas who is counting on the federal government to provide prosperity, a pathway to prosperity. Nobody in Wichita, Kansas is going to miss the, $9 billion of, transgender mice. It's just not going to happen. And so that's the culture. And I keep talking about it. I know it sounds superficial, but we keep talking about changing the culture here so Congress gets the message and then can get rid of the $175 billion that we found and then beyond that.
Okay, Tim, let's go to you, Jason. According to the Economic Policy Institute, up to 26 states are starting to develop their own versions of DOGE, and that includes Florida and Iowa, to name a few. Do these local iterations signal the federal agency is resonating or perhaps being reinterpreted?
Absolutely. And each state is going about it differently, right? So they are interpreting their mandate in different ways to address the regulations that they have in the state. And I'll also mention that the REINS Act has really already been passed at the state level in a number of states. And so as we often see, free market reform starts at the state level, and then it moves to the federal level. So each state is doing the DOGE process a little differently. Some states have a problem more with overspending. Some states have a problem more with overregulation. I would say most states, especially red states, tend to be a lot more efficient than the federal government. So there's less that they're going to find to cut. But these are efforts that are very welcome, because we know that state and local government affects our lives tremendously. And so it's important to find efficiencies there as well.
Great in-depth discussion on this topic. Tim Dozier and Jason Sorens, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.